Hello guys, welcome to the new video of the Doubt Horizon, and today we are going to take the interview of a guy who has been placed in AppDynamics. And AppDynamics is not like a company which I need to mention what it is. It has a very high and handsome salary, and today we are going to ask Purushottam Hari. We are taking his interview, and today we will ask each bits and bytes of how to do coding and other aspects like in the interview aspects and different angles. From different angles we will try to ask questions so that you get the idea of everything that goes on in a placement process and how to tackle things, how to move forward, like if you have no idea what you need to do. So he will be telling you everything, and so let's begin. So congratulations, Purushottam, for getting placed in AppDynamics, and we should start the interview with your brief introduction.
Hey guys, my name is Purushottam and I'm from a computer science background. So Jayant just asked me to answer a few questions and maybe share a few tips and tricks because I just went through my placements this July during the Corona time, and I was fortunate enough to get selected in AppDynamics. So yes, I would definitely like to help out any junior or anyone who's on the placement path, and to maybe I'll just share some things that you should look out for, and tips and tricks and general procedure how to prepare so that you can at least do as well as me, or if not better. So this is basically what I would want to achieve through this, and let's begin.
Thank you, Purushottam, for such a nice introduction. And let's move on to the next thing, and that is the most basic thing to start with is like how the complete placement process works in the small and the I'm saying is like the user more concerned into the small things that happen in a placement. So can you please give a detailed version of how each and everything happens in a placement and how you need to focus on small things? So today I would like you to answer every bit and byte that is required, even if it becomes a big detailed video, no problem. Thank you. Thank you.
So now I'll be telling you about how the company's rounds were for me in AppDynamics, and I'll just somehow give you a brief study on it, like what were the rounds like, what do you need to look out for in each round, etc. So starting with the round one, so what happened in our college was that for the first 10, 15 companies, CGPA shortlisting was 8.5 and above, 8.5 or 8 and above, which was, and for many companies, it was not even that, it was even below. But definitely the companies that came later on, because I was in touch with my friends, they were very strict with CGPA shortlistings. And even because of the Corona pandemic and the way the market is in a flux right now, CGPA does matter. So this was like a big lie told to us by many seniors that yeah, CGPA does not matter. You can just have above 8 or above 7, and you will get most of the companies. You will get a chance at least, but that's not true. My personal opinion, if you want it from me, you should have a good CGPA in your college because it will give you a remarkable edge in terms of just entering the playing field. So when I say entering the playing field, I mean you'll at least get a chance to write the round one paper, right? I personally had a good enough CGPA, luckily, so I was getting a lot of chances for the companies, and I got in. So as far as CGPA is concerned, please don't take it lightly. I mean, I'm one of those people who does not take it too strictly as well. It's not like you need to be a super achiever, but definitely be in a bracket where you're considered smart, because the companies have to shortlist students in some way or the other, and CGPA is like the first thing that comes to their mind. So you should definitely look out for that and keep a CGPA which is good, at least according to your company's, according to your college's standards, because it's different in many colleges. For VIT it might be something, for IITs it might be something, for NIT it might be something else. All right, so now let's talk about the round one. Okay, now so round one, in my experience, I'll be totally honest with you, it is, I feel, a combination of luck as well as a combination of skill. Why I'm saying this is because it is like a rat race. So you will be given questions and there will be like 200, 300 people coding at once. So you don't really know what are the parameters on which the company analyzes you and selects you. I mean, there will be a lot of cases in which you run all the codes, you get everything right, but still are not selected, and vice versa. So my suggestion for round one is that one, you should definitely be strong at competitive coding. Competitive coding, basically data structures and algorithms, and your general basics should be really on point so that you can get them as fast as possible. And then just don't stress. So if you start stressing in the first 2 3 companies, maybe if you don't get selected, it will pile up and then your performance will get degraded because of that. So for round one, you should just, somewhere just keep it in mind that yeah, it is also luck, it is also skill. I'll just do my best, and if I get selected, then I'll take it forward. Don't stress too much if you don't get selected, because it happened with me also, it happened with a lot of my friends as well, and that, trust me, that stress actually bogs you down later on and does not allow you to perform as well as you can. So round one, it is a rat race. You should just be strong with your competitive coding. And as far as language is concerned, this is a controversial topic, but I would give my experience to back some things up. In general, language does not matter. In general, in the sense, if you are looking for competitive coding, Java, C++, Python, these are the three main languages. Rather, you should also choose one, because the other languages are not majorly listed in all the companies. Language does not really matter in general, but there are certain nuances where sometimes languages do play a big role. Like, for example, there was this one question asked by PayPal. If you are thorough with competitive coding, you would know that there is a concept known as integer overflow and underflow. So if you're subtracting, or if you're dealing with like huge numbers, basically you need to use the modulus operator and kind of bring the the result down to a particular range. And if you do it in like C++ and Java, you have to manually do it. Manually, in the sense, you should know the nuances of what is addition like, what is subtraction like, what is division like, and what is multiplication like. And yes, it is different for all of them. It's not just putting a modulus. There's a little procedure you should know. Python, on the other hand, just does it automatically. So yes, this was literally the case in my college, in which the question, people who knew Python, kind of one line code, just one mathematical formula. And for the people who did not know Python, which was there, you will write 20 lines of code with immense, like, mathematical complications and everything, and it does not run. So kind of felt unfair, but also overall, I will say that these things are very rare. So my personal opinion would be that you should choose a language which you are comfortable with and just take it all the way from there. Don't really consider languages too much. But I don't want to paint a wrong picture. That's why I gave you an example that yeah, there are these very rare examples in which a company might ask you a question which has this into play, and it's unfair. But yeah, the world is an unfair place. You cannot really help that. And then so round one is basically this. As far as aptitude questions are concerned, I personally feel you should start a little early, in the sense, I did not start early, I'll be very honest, and I went through a lot of pain because of it. But if you start early, and if you are like preparing for CAT or GATE, amazing, because it's literally the same thing. But if my personal opinion would be that you start at least a month before, or maybe 2 months before, that'll be really great. If you just keep consistency and kind of gain the knack of what kind of questions they ask, because time is key. And so basically this is it. Not much to speak about round one. Just stay chill. As soon as you give the exam, just forget about it. If you get selected, take it out from them, or just don't stress. If you stress, you'll literally bog your chances down even more. Now round two. So and by the way, my company had 4 rounds in total. So round one I cleared. In my round one, they asked a DP question and 2 easy questions. So yeah, I cleared that. The DP one was a little hard, but luck was on my side. I knew the question. Now round 2 was a technical round. Okay, so for round 2, the points that I would like to share is that for us specifically, Corona, it was a online interview, and during an online interview, they do not have a whiteboard in which you practice, right? Generally, as I had heard from my seniors, they have a whiteboard and then they give you a question, and then you have to write it down on the whiteboard and then explain. There's no laptop or something given to you. But still, even if you're in this side of the interview, in which, like the Corona online one, or if you're in the normal whiteboard scenario, I would still suggest that you practice whiteboard coding, because like even I have purchased a whiteboard myself for that. And the best part about it is that it kind of structures your mind into how you approach a question, how you declare all the steps, and how you go from one step to the other. Is it methodic or is it not? All of these things get clear to the interviewer, right? So when you're practicing for your general DSA competitive coding type questions, Firstly, which you have not seen, because they will be asking you questions which you have not seen. They won't be asking you questions like maybe reverse a linked list or something like that. So for the question that you've not seen, first you should always come up with a brute force algorithm, which is like the very basic one. You should at least tell them so that they know that okay, fine, at least he's got this covered. Then you move on to the next questions. I don't want to bore you much with that. All you need to do is that basically just go on to YouTube, and there are these. There is a person known as Clemente. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but yeah, he's a Google software engineer who has a lot of subscribers. He has posted videos in which he interviews people, and he kind of has made these 50-50 minute long videos in which the ace coder on the other side kind of answers the questions, and you kind of get a hang of what the recruiter is expecting from you, or even if you don't know the answer, still what does he expect from you and what are the ways to tackle these things. So yeah, you should do that, and if you can, please buy a whiteboard and practice questions on that, in which you're drawing and then you're erasing stuff again, doing it, but you should practice on that. And other than that, in the second round, he asked me some questions that I didn't know. I successfully delivered it with good confidence, so that went well. But then he did ask me about threads and a little bit of OS here and there. And those concepts were also, the basics were very strong with me because I had gone through them. I'll just tell you how in the next round. But so these things do matter, and your confidence matters, and you should always look out for. Just the last tip I would like to give is that you should always know that the person who's recruiting you wants to work with you, so your communication should be on point. The way you interact with him, it should be light. It should not feel like you're stressed out or something like that. That's more of a soft skill, but it's very important. Then round three came to me, which was a managerial round. So the managerial round in my case was again a bit of tech questions, more emphasized towards my projects, DBMS, OS, and networks. That is the core subjects. And in general, he was just trying to like a personality driven test. So for this, definitely the core subjects need to be strong, right? So the core subjects, you can rather wrap them up. I'll just share it with you in the next section because that question is there in front, so I'll just skip this one right now. And as far as your projects and everything is concerned, that question is coming up later on. So all I would like to say is that if for these rounds, right, in which he's kind of face to face with you, if you don't know an answer, you should be diplomatic about it, not in a cruel like politician way. I mean, diplomatic about it in the sense that you should definitely try to look for the answer in front of him. So let's say that he asks you a question that you don't know, like he did ask me a question I did not know about, but you should definitely be trying to kind of give him the information you have and kind of figuring out the answer a little bit in a way you can. I know I cannot objectively define this, but you know what I mean, in the sense that you should not be like, oh, you asked me this question, sir, I don't know, please skip. That gives a very very big red alert. But if he asks you a question and you kind of are trying to dabble with him and trying to ask him questions and kind of figuring out the answer together, that definitely gives a bigger edge, and I think that worked in my favor. Then round four for me was HR. For me, HR was just a basic where are you willing to work in this place, what are your conditions like, etc., etc. Not something which was highly you need any skill for it, or I wouldn't say that. But for many of my friends, yes, even HR rounds are technical. I don't know why do they even name it HR in that case, but yes, HR rounds are technical, in which they ask you coding questions, and then they do test your personality on different levels. And yes, people do fail in HR as well, so you should look out for like these personality based questions and stuff like that. Finally, overall, as far as company preparation is concerned, I feel you should research about the company, at least an hour, just an hour, not too much, but you should research, and you should kind of have the tendency already in you that yeah, you want to work for this company because you know what you're looking for, and you know how the company can help you and how you can help the company as well. These answers automatically come to you as soon as you start researching about the company and what they're doing. And so you can ask them relevant questions at the end of the interview as well. And this is basically what the interview was like for me, the interview process, 4 rounds. And let's move on to the next question after this.
That was too much detail for a coding interview, and for the perspective of a placement. That was like you said everything, and literally right now I'm feeling this.
धागा खोल दिया एकदम.
So when it comes to the questions that we asked some of the viewers through Google Form and from the groups and other things and LinkedIn, I got messages. Like, to what extent does this certifications and project matters? So I would like you to answer on this part as well.
Right. So the next question is that to what extent do projects and certifications matter? The strict answer to this would be to the extent to which you can own them. What do I mean by this? Is that, like, if you have done a certification or if you have done a project and you have been, so one is just doing it and listing it into your resume, right? So if someone asks you about it, or rather I would not use the word ask you, I would use the word threaten you about it, right? So let's say I look at your resume and I see something there and I threaten you about it, because that's the job of the interviewer. He'll kind of threaten you and try to poke you into seeing your weak spots. And if you cannot own it at that point of time, if you cannot be like, oh wait, I have done this, yeah, I can answer these, or I can kind of own it, it's not like you'll know the 100% of that subject. Even, like, for example, a lot of people will put ML or web development into their resumes. It's not like they expect you to be like a mastermind, but they definitely expect you to have some kind of a hold and confidence, and that should definitely be there. So I don't want to tell you much about projects because this has been discussed a lot in other videos, and like even I have seen it from there. But this is what the one thing that my senior told me, and it really helped me, and that was that even if you have any kind of project with you, you should own it at that point. So if the recruiter tries to hassle you about it or anything, the vibe that you give out should be of ownership, that yeah, I have done this, this was my motive for it, this is what I achieved. Even if you have failures, a person who's owning the project will kind of take it in one way, and the person who's just done it, he will take it in another way. I'm not even discussing the point of, which is the obvious point, that you should do your projects on your own and stuff like that, because that is obvious. I am considering the fact that you have done those projects and certifications on your own. And if you have done them, and if you have created some kind of innovation with it, and some kind of, maybe, like, for example, you saw a problem in your college and you tried to fix it, or you just saw some funny little idea you had in your mind and then you just kind of implemented it, those things really will kind of show ownership for your projects and certifications. So I personally feel, yes, certifications and projects are like great on your resume only if you have ownership for them. I just keep this short and sweet because, yeah, I can speak a lot about it, but I think this really clarifies it. So you should just have ownership about it, and when he tries to threaten you, you should be able to stand for yourself. And if you can do that, the certification project counts on your resume.
Yeah, so it's rightly answered, Purushottam, that certifications doesn't matter at that extent. If you can't say that yeah, you have done that course, like, if just getting a certificate doesn't make satisfy you, like, for a particular subject. So if you say that you have a subject of, like, machine learning or AI or something like that, then you should know that subject as well if it's asked in the interview. So just don't keep up certificates and just making a pile of certificates. That doesn't matter. Even if you have one certificate in just one particular domain, and if you're very good in that, that is much better than having hundreds of certificates. So let's move on to the next question that has been asked. So, what is the importance of core subjects in an interview? Like, in mostly in the interview, these things are asked, and the most important part is where to study this from. Like, people are doubt to where to study this from and how to study this. So I would like you to answer this question as well.
They play a huge role because every company will quiz you on these things. Core subjects mainly include OS, networks, DBMS, right? Little bit of software and stuff is there, but majorly you should have these things really wrapped around your head. Now, definitely, if you're a computer science student or whatever, you have gone through these subjects in your time, but when the placements approach, like for our case, we had kind of done it like 2 years before, so you have to really wrap things around. I'll just come straight to the point on where you can study for it and what are the things that you should look out for. So one thing that you should do is, there are these YouTube channels. So Knowledge Gate is one, Gate Smashers is another, and then there are few others also which might be there. I might have forgotten them, but these are the two main ones in which they have playlists for these, like, OS and DBMS and networks. Just go through them once, and I did this around 3 months before the placements, which is like the best time to do it. So you just go through them once at your own pace and kind of study and revise those things that you had studied before. But one thing that you need to make sure right now during placement. So, what's the difference between studying these subjects for placements and studying these subjects for your stupid college exams? The difference is that these ones will be far more practical. So, as far as like these numericals and objective questions are concerned, that is where round one comes into picture. So now all colleges, all companies don't have like core subjects in your round one, but some of them do. Some of them will like literally ask you network OS questions in round one itself to classify you. So for that, the way you study in your college for those subjects and the way you study for placement is literally the same. You just have to know what are the important numericals, what are the tips and tricks of doing things, and you should have a short list of formulas with you and stuff like that. Then let's move on to the better part, which is what is different. So what is different is that in placements, these subjects you need to know them conceptually, right? So for example, if I ask you how a DNS works, you might just give me a theoretical Ratawa answer from your brain, but that won't work for the placements. You need to literally know what a DNS does, what is the DHCP protocol, what is quality of service. This is networks, and then even in OS, what is a thread, like what does fork do exactly, and how can you define that in an application maybe. And then in DBMS, why do you normalize these, like basic questions. They But you need to know them conceptually, in the sense you should just knowing the theory and just knowing tips and tricks won't help you there, because you will be talking to a person face to face and he will give you a scenario in which you need to literally explain the working of that procedure. So for example, if he asks you to implement threads, which was the case in mine, and then it from that question it went to thrashing, right? So now if I just have the definition in my head of thrashing, I wouldn't know that this is where thrashing will come into play, and I need to point this out, right? And same with networks. For networks especially, because networks, I personally I just mugged up the things because college just does it in such a rushed manner. I did not conceptually understand things then, but thankfully during the placements I sat and actually conceptually understood them, and you get a good feel after that as well, because you start really realizing what your router does and what these things do, what exactly is happening. And at one point what you should do is that you should just list out these playlists. Coming back to the procedure, list out these playlists, your gate smashes, knowledge gate, and just do them and make your rough notes. Then after this, what you can do is you can go to Geeks for Geeks. Geeks for Geeks has a very, very, very broad set of question lists with it, on all of these subjects like computer science, all of them actually, even subjects like microprocessors and stuff like that. Just go to these tabs on the Geeks for Geeks website, and you will get a lot of set questions, which are basically, I feel they are gate questions which have been presented there with answers and everything. Go through them, because that will kind of make you revise the round one aspect of things. Numericals, what are the real short answers that they are looking for. Then they have also made a section in which there's a huge table, and lot of points or lot of titles have been mentioned there. Like for example, in OS, all of the things that come under OS, right? Like from threads to procedure, like how do you characterize processes, and then how do you schedule them, to disk scheduling. Everything has been like point wise listing, and trust me, when you open that first, literally 50% of the things you'll be like, what the hell is this? But then just keep going through them, like I used to do that on my phone. Just click on a random thing, just read about it, and just click on a random thing, read about it, and make your notes even more elaborate. At this point, the notes that you made using the playlist before, elaborate them really well using these points. And doing this will kind of get your basics cleared. And then after this, what you can do is, one thing that really helped me when I was trying to do it fast, because I did not have too much of time, you can just write on YouTube, right? Just write interview questions for DBMS or interview questions for OS. And they have, like, I think Edureka or some other channel, they have made like 50 minute long videos in which they literally just go through each question once, like just like your general classroom slides, but they do it well. So you can just go through them, and that kind of helps. It helped me out a lot in SQL. So yes, which is part of DBMS again. So coming to that, this is how you get your theory cleared. Then, as far as DBMS personally is concerned, I just mentioned SQL right now. SQL also you need to be very good with, because a lot of companies will ask you about SQL questions specifically, and you should be able to figure out what joins are, how do you implement them, what is a faster way of doing things, what are some tips and tricks. These things are there. You can practice them on Hacker Rank, and also there are other sources available. A lot of them you can just Google them, right? So I started off with HackerRank, but then that becomes a little too easy or a little too difficult at one point. So you just switch on to another area where you can go through. And then even the playlists that I mentioned, Gate Smashers, he has like a couple of videos in a line in which he kind of explains some tricky SQL questions, and it helps a lot because those things are really used a lot of times. And yes, I think that really more or less does it. So this is how you can kind of get a general structure of how to study for these subjects. Just keep in mind that conceptual understanding is key here. So anything, just spend a lot of time in literally conceptually understanding them, and then you should be good to go.
Yeah, so as rightly said, whatever the sources he has mentioned, it is quite nice resources, and I will try to make one more video on this particular which resources we need to study from. And now coming to the next question, that is, how many questions of like DP, graph, and other important like topics should be covered? I don't think so. That is something the amount you should ask. But still, if Purushottam is ready, you can answer this question as well.
So now this is a very important, genuine question, but as well it's equally stupid, to be honest, because trust me, like, do you really expect me to just give you a number and be like, yeah, you do this and that's it? I don't think that's like the right way of looking at it. That's why the question is a little dumb. But what you should rather look for is not a number, but consistency, right? So consistency, I mean, is that like, if I personally, I started 2 months or 2.5 months before the placements really started, but I used to do them every day, right? So it's, you don't keep track of like number, okay, because that's just a thing that you brag with your friends about. That's stupid. You should only keep track of consistency, that yeah, I'm at least doing these many questions and I'm having some kind of progress. Why? Because self-awareness is key here. For example, when you start off, you might not be, everyone does not progress in the same way, right? But you should yourself know whether you're progressing or are you not, right? And that can only be determined by you. So the only characteristic that you can look for, according to me, is consistency. Am I being consistent? If I'm being consistent, definitely my self-awareness is increasing. Definitely I know that I'm progressing, right? So as far as this DP, trees, etc. question is concerned, to answer it in a better way, I would say that I would rather give you the way I did it, or I feel is a good way of implementing these things, and that is that you can go onto these courses, right? So there are these courses. I personally used Geeks for Geeks course on DSA, right? I think it was a rupees 2,500 bucks, but it was worth it because the way he explained the questions, the core concepts, and the way he kind of emphasized on what questions are there, what are the patterns in it, brilliant, right? So that kind of gave me a great base. After that, what I did was that I used to go on to, I first started with Geeks for Geeks. They have a portal in which you can kind of find top 25 questions of each company, right? So started there, and you just keep doing them, and don't look for the answer right in the beginning. You need to like spend time, and that's where you need to forget about the number, because if you keep number in your mind, there might be days in which like one day you have just done 2 questions, right? And that is not enough to brag to your friend, right? That, hey, like on WhatsApp, hey, I just did 2 questions today, and he'll be like, yeah, I did 10. It does not matter. What really matters is those 2 questions, how much quality did they add to you? Do they mean progress to you or not? So when you do those questions, basically like what I should do was I should do the GFG questions, and then after that, GFG became too monotonous for me because you just need a little bit of variety. So I moved on to Hacker Rank, and then Hacker Rank becomes again, Hacker Rank has its pros and cons. You'll get to know about it when you start doing it. But yeah, sometimes they're just too difficult, sometimes they're just too easy, sometimes they're just too not understandable. But yeah, you'll get through it when you start doing it. And then I went into Lead Code. Now Lead Code and GFG, my personal opinion, are the best because they kind of categorize the questions very well. And Lead Code has this really amazing way in which the progress can kind of be measured. You can do the easy questions first, and then you can switch on to the medium questions, and when you complete the medium question, you can switch on for the hard questions. And you can literally you can have that kind of a search in which you can only list the linked list questions, only list the tree questions and stuff like that, right? So that is how you should personally measure your progress and not measure it with someone else. And fuck the number perspective. As far as number is concerned, quantity matters towards the end, in which how if you have a huge question number bank in your head, there's a chance that yeah, you have done that question before. That definitely helps. But when you're prepping in the beginning, just screw the number part of it. Okay, like don't think of it. Later on, when you're like good with the basics and you're kind of in that flow, then you can just look out for very questions and follow YouTube channels. At the end of the day, like I used to do that. I followed a lot of YouTube channels who used to really explain coding in a very nice way. One amazing channel I found for DP was Aditya. I think Aditya Verma is his name. But the way he explained the procedure, how you should think about DP questions, first the recursive and then brilliant. That is what actually helped me to crack AppDynamics. Trust me, because that's the exact way I thought about the question on round one, and I actually did it. So okay, and this was one. And another strong point that I would like to make, which really helped me wonders, I used to perform mock interviews consistently with my friends. So I had made a group of like I was in touch with two or three people, and I used to literally drag them and just make them like because we were in the corona times, we could not be with each other, so we used to literally log on to Teams every night or every morning, whatever time suits you. And he would ask me two questions, and I would ask him two questions, right? And basically we would have this mock interview process. It really helps, because what happens is that you don't you that fear of someone interviewing you, right, that just evaporates after some moments. At first you will realize that your hands are shaking, and you're not able to constructively think at that point when you need to. But because I had done literally like 30 or 35 or maybe more, I don't even remember, so many interviews, that firstly my question bank definitely increased. And then I was just not afraid of tackling a new question. Even if I don't know the question, my mind was not spending time on, oh, I don't know the question, what does he think about me, blah, blah, blah. I was really focused on finding the answers, and I kind of was in the flow of asking the right questions to the interviewer and maybe kind of getting a hint of what to do. And that really helped me. So mock interviews, I personally feel, is a must. And for those of you who have researched and have already seen YouTube videos, yes, I came across this idea from that one Asian looking dude who made a YouTube video on how do you get into companies like Microsoft and stuff, and he mentioned this. And a lot of other YouTubers have also mentioned that mock interviews were like the very very base which kind of created that atmosphere within themselves, to go for an interview. So yeah, these would be my main points as far as the question how many questions you should do. Forget number, consistency, do mock interviews, and assess your progress on your own. Don't compare it with other people. That should be it.
So we got the similar type of question from another viewer, is that what is the difficulty level of dynamic programming questions that we solve? So the difficulty is different type of, but it's better if Purushottam answer this question, and let's move on to him.
Cool. So the next question was that, okay, what is the difficulty level of the DP questions that are asked by these companies? I would like to keep the answer short and simple. It is all easy, medium, and hard, and very hard. Okay, so it depends on the company. Some companies are notorious for asking hard, some are not. Some will ask you the very, very basic ones, like a longest increasing subsequence or whatever. Some will ask you really difficult ones. App Dynamics for me asked me a medium to hard, or maybe a hard, yeah, somewhere it was a hard question. But there is no right answer to this. Companies sometimes ask you really easy questions, they test you on time. Companies sometimes ask you medium level questions. Companies sometimes ask you very hard questions as well. So there is really no category that I can give you an answer to for this one.
As rightly said by Purushottam, there are different differently levels when you go in an interview or you go for a coding round. So there are different levels. Yeah, there are, and you need to be more focused on things like intuitive types of thing. Once you're solving a DP question, you shouldn't be something like you just learn the longest common subsequence or question like that, just standard questions. You need to feel the intuitiveness in those questions, so it will make you better in DP. So moving on to the next question is, it was a most asked question when we gave that Google form, and on LinkedIn also people ask me, which is the most preferred language by the people who have got placed, something like that. So what is the most preferred language, or what language should a person prefer in a placement interviews or in placement coding rounds? So this question is also answered by Purushottam.
Okay, so what is the language that I prefer? Now, I personally I use Java. Java, I used it because again, this is a very very personal answer. In my college, for some reason, they really emphasized on Java. Okay, so till the very end, they were kind of quizzing us with Java questions, and they kind of carried it on for a long period of time. And because I was already paying my attention a lot towards Java, and that's why I just chose Java as my language, and I just completed coding in it. A lot of people from my college again did the same thing because of the very same reason. Mm. But as far as the language that you should consider, it is just on you. Competitive coding, in a very general way, is just about data structures, how you implement them, how can you manipulate them, how fluent are you in understanding them. And once you do that, the coding language will just become a tool for you to express it, right? So it does not matter whether you choose C or Java or Python. You might have one question in mind, and that is that C++ is faster than Java, right? This question has already been answered by a lot of people who have made videos on this already, but I'll just say it again. The companies, they don't generally look for they don't compare speeds in that way. They generally keep the tests on these standardized platforms such as HackerRank or their own standardized platform, right? And they have an option of the language you can choose, and definitely they do not, they know this, that Java's small, like comparatively smaller to C++ and stuff like that. They have already figured that out. You don't need to take care of that. All you need to take care of is that your algorithm should be good enough. So if an algorithm, the most optimum is big of n, you should not put a big of n square and then try to run it. Make it big of n. That's based on your data structures, does not depend on language again. But if you are just starting out and you literally have every language in your in your option right now, like you don't have a bias against any because of your college or anything like that, then I would personally give you the option of C++, because C++ is literally like the language for competitive coding, because it's fast. You get a lot of resources. Every question has an answer in C++, definitely. So if you want to look it up, you'll definitely find a C++ version of it. And in general, yes, C++ is the language generally people use because it's very fast to write, and you can become very efficient with the time. But this is just a very general opinion. If someone is just starting out, if you already have some kind of competence in a language, I would suggest that you just take that language and go through it, because it does not really matter for the most part in all the companies.
So as rightly said by Purushottam, the coding language doesn't matter. Like personally speaking, I have been in an interview and there also they never told me like, okay, you just write in Python or write in C++. They say, like, give me a question and they say that okay, you can write in any preferred language you like. That doesn't matter at all, because the basic thing that matters is that are you clear with your concepts. If you're clear with your concepts, if I have to switch in Python as well, that's not a big deal. If I'm clear with what things I have to use, it's not a big deal. At the level, if you reach that level, you will understand these things on your own. So just pick up any one language and you just start with it. Okay, so now coming to the end of the interview, so I would like Purushottam to give some additional tips, some motivation to you, and how to overcome the fear of an interview. Like before going to an interview, we have some sort of fear. So how to remove those fear from us? So he will give you the very good ideas. So please watch this part as well. It is very important. Okay.
Okay, so additional tips would be, after giving that long drawn structure, like opinion of mine on other topics, last tips would be, first, keep some kind of senior guidance with you. In the sense, you should reach out to couple of seniors of your own college community, whatever, and stay in touch with them, because they will be the number one support factors for you, right? They have gone through the same thing that you are going through. They know the nuances of your particular placement scenario or whatever it is, and you should definitely be in touch with them. uh, for me, literally, sometimes I was focusing on like absurd things, and just one text kind of shot that worry out of my head, or got me back in track, because I was touched with some of my seniors. And then if you take two or three perspectives of your seniors, you literally get the thing that you need. Like, for example, what suits you, or you'll kind of get a very good broad perspective on how you need to tackle it. So please be in touch with your seniors. That is literally an absolute must. Don't do it alone. Second, do mock interviews. Mock interviews, in a sense, make your friends sit down on Microsoft Teams or in person if you can. That's great. Ask him two questions, ask him to solve it right there. He asks you two questions, you solve it right there in front of him. Get that fear of sitting in an interview out. The fear of sitting in an interview, in the sense, someone asks you a question, you do not know, how do you tackle it? That, trust me, I had done around 35 to 40 of these mock interviews. And then when I actually sat for the interviews, I did not have even this much of a fear in me, as far as just sitting there and I'm asking me a question was concerned. Literally, I that part of my fear was just sorted, just because of the mock interviews, right? So please do this consistently, and that really helps. Third, this is a personal opinion of mine. Maybe it might not suit you, but I think it makes sense, so I'll just share it with you anyways. When you are getting ready to go into the rounds, or go into those face-to-face interviews later on, whatever it may be, those times, just separate yourself out from the crowd. Because this is something which really helped me. What happens at that point is, there will be a lot of people who will be creating unnecessary ruckus. That, oh, I just heard that they are asking these questions, my god, we have not done this, have you done this, oh, what's the preparation like? I mean, this exists everywhere, right? But when you are about to give the paper, this is the last thing that you want to deal with, right? So at that point, just become a selfish asshole and don't talk to people at that point too much. Just try to get into the flow and peace that you really need. And when you're giving these rounds, as soon as you start the round, just become free. Treat it like a joke, because if you take it seriously and overthink about it, it'll just bog you down, right? So just keep one thing in mind, is that you need to do your best at that point. You cannot do anything about the past again, right? So just do it and just walk out. You don't have to engage in unnecessary banter with people and try to get their stresses onto you and stuff like that. It's just unnecessary crap which you should avoid, I personally feel. So just come into a meditative zone at that point of time. And then the last tip that I would like to give is that, if you have these kind of thoughts in you, that, oh, I just have 2 months left, how will I prepare? Oh, I just have 3 months left or something. Some of you idiots must be thinking, oh, I just have 1 year left, right? So I started competitive coding personally just 3 months before, right? Personally, I just started then, 3.5 months before. And I was able to do fairly well. I got selected in AppDynamics, and I've seen better examples than me as well, who were able to just do it just because they were consistent. So these thoughts that you have, right, they are all bullshit. I'm telling it to you. If you have whatever time you have left, you can achieve a lot through it. Just stop thinking about this crap and just do the competitive coding and the procedure that maybe you learn from me or someone else, or whatever procedure you have which works for you. Just do that and stop worrying about these things, because trust me, it's not that difficult. You can do it if you're consistent. And I think I've covered the technical aspects of what you should do or what you shouldn't do. And that should more or less be it. Stop worrying, just do your stuff, and definitely you'll get placed in a great company. That's it. Thank you. I hope I was helpful.
Thank you, Purushottam, for answering this much question with so much patience and helping out the juniors on different aspects. So I have even made some videos on topic was how to study on different topics like dynamic programming and other things. So you can go and watch those videos as well if you want. Okay, you should be watching those videos as well. It's nice. And as a senior, I have tried to make whatever best out of it. So when it comes to motivation, I will simply say that you need to work hard, and you need to have one thing inside you right now when you're going up for the placement or any other competitive things, or whatever you are doing. You should be like, whatever it takes, I will do it. You need to be have that much of thing. And it doesn't matter. See, the point what I have seen in people is that they think that they have to study all the time for this. Like literally they're studying all the time in the college. No, you don't have to do like that. You have some fun with your friends as well. you do whatever other activities you like, your hobbies also you can follow, and at the same time you can do these things also. But when it comes to the 5-6 months before the placement, just be more sincere towards the placement, because yeah, at the end of the day your career is also important and the jobs you get is also important. So this is what I would like to say. So if you like the video, please like, and in the description I will send his LinkedIn link, so he can answer some of the question that is left. And please subscribe to the channel. Okay, and in the next time I will try to bring few of the videos of the how to study the CS core subjects and some other new topics that I won't be sharing right now. So stay tuned. Till then, we are coming back again.